Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share my first update on my experience with the Asus ROG Zephyrus G15 gaming laptop. Now this retails for $1,800 US, and it is, in my opinion, at least as of right now, worth every penny. It seems to be the best balance of overall performance. There are some corners cut, but I think that Asus has done a great job. Now you can see this is Cyberpunk I'm running in real time. This is not a voiceover. I'm playing while I'm talking, so excuse the quality of my gameplay, but this is really to demonstrate one thing, the frames per second. You can see 56 right there. Everything is maxed out, and it is fairly amazing. I mean, what makes this entire build so unique is that we've got this brand new 15.6-inch QHD 165 hertz panel that is actually color accurate. You heard correctly, 100% DCI P3, Pantone validated. So great whether you're a gamer, a content creator, or both, like myself. And then in addition to that, you've got a great CPU-GPU pairing with the AMD Ryzen 9 5900HS, complemented by Nvidia's 3070. Now that is basically a max Q. It does have 8 gigs of video RAM, but it is not the full power 3070. For that, you're going to have to step up to 17-inch models. Nvidia has dropped the designations, but I think they're coming back because people don't really know what they're getting now, which makes things even more confusing. Now, we're seeing 55 frames here, and that seems to be my experience anywhere between 40 and close to 60 with everything maxed out. For those of you wondering if things are really maxed out, let's jump into settings. You can see right there, we're running at native 2560 by 1440, windowed borderless. Let's go into graphics. You can see this is, by the way, the default. As soon as I started up Cyberpunk, ray tracing is at ultra. I mean, I am going to scroll, pretty much almost everything's maxed out. And to see this sort of performance on a AAA title that came out all of a fart's throw ago, I mean, this is still brand spanking new, is amazing. And if you didn't get the fart's throw comment, well, I can't help you. The point is that this is why this machine is so sought after. And also, if you've noticed, the fans are not really that loud. Another amazing thing for a gaming laptop with this sort of performance. Now, you haven't heard audio performance. I'm going to give you a taste of that. Then I'm going to show you how you can unlock even more frames. So let's hear that audio, which, by the way, is very impressive. I'm going to get back in my vehicle, my little shipmobile. Let's actually go somewhere. Volume is all the way up. That's what I thought. We're going to go talk to Jackie. And yes, this is the very beginning of the Nomad journey. I'm well aware. No one need tell me. Bump around a little bit. Jump a rail. Go through the desert. Push this thing a little bit. We're still holding nearly 50 frames, and look, I know, whoa, nice flip. I know we're not getting the magical 60, but that's easy to achieve. You just have to take down settings a little bit, and that's what is so impressive about this build. And I'll get to, video editing, things of that nature, how this compares with previous gen, all that good stuff. See, we dropped into the 40s here as we get a little bit more detail, and it's to be expected. I mean, remember, this is a gaming laptop. This is not a 17-inch desktop replacement beast, but still pretty amazing. I mean, I'm very impressed with what Asus has done here from every angle. I don't consider it perfect, but we have come a really long way. Now, if I go ahead and adjust those settings, so let's say we let's just go to Ultra. Let's get rid of ray tracing, okay? Let's just, humor me here. Go ahead and resume. Let's see if we get a pop in performance. Staying roughly the same. We're still seeing 40s. Sometimes I've noticed it takes a reboot of the game, but generally speaking, when I turn ray tracing off, we're looking at more like the 60 frames per second that you would want. Now, if you take this down to full HD, that's a whole nother story. So it's another thing to be aware of. I have really screwed this vehicle up. There we go. Now, you may not see any difference right now with ray tracing disabled, but it's still something I wanted to actually be able to demo. So let's do something else completely different. Let's drop this down to full HD, because a lot of you still like to game in full HD, and why not make that happen with all of this horsepower? If frame rates are what you're after, this is going to be the way to do it. So now we're in full HD, and you can see we're pulling 67 frames per second, 68. So the way to get over 60 frames, you can now see in Ultra. This is not with ray tracing. I mean, things still look phenomenal. I mean, this is as good as a desktop class gaming system. Granted, not ultra high end, but just think about the fact that this can go anywhere. You can easily connect this to an external monitor. The built-in microphones I haven't tested yet. No webcam on this machine, but still pretty amazing what this thing is capable of. Now, let's try bumping that up. Let's jump back into settings, and let's go ahead and take it back up to ray tracing Ultra and see what happens at full HD. There's going to be a drop-off, no question, but it's pretty much just about a 5, possibly 10, maybe even 15 frame gain over gaming in QHD. So this is really a matter of personal preference. I think a lot of people will be fine gaming in native QHD res, like this is meant to be used, or alternatively, like I'm showing you now, dropping it down to full HD and making sure that you never see anything lower than 65 frames per second. And that's pretty impressive. Actually, the best test of that is to go back to Jackie, get inside, a little first person for you, and because that's where the frame started to fall off, right? So let's do that. And remember, this is Cyberpunk. This isn't, I'm going to reiterate, this is not a 3-year-old title. That's just craziness. I mean, that we're on a gaming laptop and we're able to do this is pretty insane. Especially something that is not, again, a 17-inch monster. So here we drop down to a little under 60. Whereas when we were, at native resolution with ray tracing, in QHD, of course, that is the native on this machine, we were at about 40 frames per second. So a 19 to 20 frame gain, again, running this at full HD. Really impressive stuff, in my opinion. Now, I'm going to get out of the game altogether. I'm going to show you a little bit of benchmarking information for those of you that are wondering, 8 minutes in. So, 3D Mark Time Spy, 9,396. Now, I ran this multiple times, initially out of the box, before all the drivers were firmed up. Now they are all firmed up. I have a valid result. Initially, I didn't. I did see it move around, but now this has been consistent. I mean, this is an amazing score. To have 9,396, that's a beast. I mean, you can even see right there, Gaming PC 2020, 9,216. This is a laptop. You can take this places, even though we're in a pandemic, and I don't recommend it. This is pretty amazing. To give you a point of reference, the main gear element that I have to my right that I'm also presently reviewing, and I was considering personally with a 2070 Super. I also have the 2060 Super. That's a full power GPU from the previous generation, 6 and 8 gigs again, respectively, based on the 2060 or 2070, and that's with an Intel 8-core processor. I was getting around 76, 7,700 on Time Spy. So this is a pretty big jump from one generation to the next. And remember, that is the main gear is an Intel reference design laptop. Fans can do as much as they possibly need to. I really like what main gear's done there, but the performance that you're seeing from the AMD CPU and more importantly, the Nvidia new 30 series GPU is just astounding for a laptop. And that's what, a lot of people have been saying, well, the 30 series GPUs haven't delivered what the 30 series desktop GPUs have, and I completely get that, but I beg to differ because, again, this is a Max-Q variant, lower powered, and yet I'm pulling better overall performance than I could get out of a 2070 Super in the main gear build. The next thing I'm going to show you is just crystal discs, so that those of you wondering about the 1 terabyte Hynix NVMe that's in here, its speeds are fine. They're not amazing. I have drives that are much faster than this. I will likely swap it out, but anyone who was wondering, I'll do another test right now. I wanted you all to be aware of what to expect out of the box. Other impressions, even though this has been solely focused on, gaming and, of course, benchmarking and the display quality, which I think is great. I didn't expect it to be as good as it is, but I think it is pretty much as good as you're going to get without getting an OLED. And that's what I'm waiting on now with the Aero 15. That's the next 30 series blessed laptop I'll be checking out. But that's more of a hybrid. That's more of a creator combo, I would say, because it doesn't have a gaming-centric, flair, at least, because the 3060, which is also a Max-Q design, is not going to give you the performance. See, we're getting better numbers here. I might run this another time. First two benchmarks that I ran here were not this good, so this is why I do things on the fly. Basically, that machine, you're getting a 60 hertz OLED, also 15.5 inches, but there are a lot of things that you don't get with this machine. So forget the webcam, because most webcams are garbage anyway. I can actually excuse Asus that they omitted that altogether, especially if the microphones that are up there actually are great. I haven't really utilized them yet. I will eventually. That'll be part of another update or the full review. But then more importantly, no Thunderbolt 3 or 4. That's something I would like to have. I know many of you out there don't care about that, but I've got a lot of external NVMe storage that would love it. We do have Type-C ports on here, 100 watt power delivery. That's great. So you can charge this using a Type-C charger, 65 watt or even higher. But the only way you're going to get the max performance, as well as the ability to charge this entire machine in roughly an hour, is with the included charger that it comes with. So I don't think that's a bad thing, but the Aero also has HDMI 2.1. This does not have HDMI 2.1 out. The Aero also has a full-size SD card slot. This has a micro, which I think is still better than having none, for sure. Also, we have a dedicated display port on the Aero 15 here. You're going to be using that Type-C port that has DisplayPort 1.4 capability, of course. So all things you need to consider if you're trying to figure out which machine is best for you. Also, the Aero is less expensive, $15.99, but you're getting less of a beast in terms of the GPU. You're dropping down to the 3060, 6 gigs of VRAM as opposed to the 8 here. And there is a difference, no question. I'm expecting gaming to be inferior, and it will be. I also don't know how good thermals are going to be, whereas so far I've seen virtually no throttling on this machine. It's been fairly amazing. And apparently now, I'm glad I ran this test again, because on 3 consecutive tests, none of the numbers were as good as they're coming out now. So go figure. This is why benchmarking is important. Synthetics don't mean a hell of a lot, but they do give you a pretty good indication of what you're working with. And I said before, the Hynix drive in here is not the best. It still isn't, even though these numbers are looking a lot better. I believe the Aero 15, another thing I liked about it is that it is compatible with PCI Express 4. This is capped at 3. So I don't know how hot that's going to get inside of a laptop, but that's another thing I plan on testing out. That'll all be next week when the Aero 15 comes in. And ultimately, I'll end up making my own personal decision. I don't have any relationship with Asus or Gigabyte or really main gear. So this has all been me trying to find the right workstation / gaming machine for myself. Now, this one right now looks like it's going to be tough to beat. I do not like that the 8 gigs of RAM are soldered on. I feel like that was a bit of a screw you move, that they just shouldn't have done it, but they did, and here we are. And what can I tell you? I mean, there's not a hell of a lot we can do about that. And even if you can max it out to 48 gigs, no dual channel performance is a really big punch to the gut. So I don't know why they did that. Also, I want to talk a little bit about Wi-Fi performance. In my experience, Wi-Fi has been good. I haven't had problems, but I'll tell you right now, the Wi-Fi performance here is not as good as what I've been getting out of the main gear to my right. The performance on there is just as fast as my internet connection can actually go. Here, a little bit slower, but not anything to ultimately complain about. And you do have Ethernet on board, so if you want to hardwire it, the whole conversation is moot to begin with. But overall, really good impressions with this machine. You can see we got completely different results. I'm tempted to run it again just because of the difference, the variation. But the display quality is good. Video editing for me, I've been using Vegas. I've not been using Premiere, but very similar to what I'm getting out of the 2070 Super or P, you know, the full power in the main gear to my right. So that's likely a limitation of the software. It looks like we're getting similar read-write combos here. So basically disregard those other results. This is good news. And again, I always stand to be corrected if I make an error. And since my videos are unscripted and very light on the editing, you're getting exactly that, which is, again, real-time performance. And I don't think I have to let it go through, but I can, because I am addressing other things I want all of you to know. You know, the armory, the crate, it's a good thing to have. I think it's actually, it's a great thing to have. The overall Windows install on here is clean, which is another nice thing. A lot of machines you pick up from big box stores like Best Buy, you're going to get a bunch of crap on them. Or if you even go direct with manufacturers, I think that Asus has done a solid job of really keeping this as clean as possible. It's not as clean as the main gear, which is literally so stock that video codecs aren't. And, you know, you got to purchase video codecs to play back certain content, but still really impressive with what they've done here. And just for those of you unfamiliar with the crate, you know, you can jump through system settings. You can, I mean, the lighting, basically anything you want, your gaming library, you can, of course, sync this. So there's just a lot inside of the Armory crate, but most importantly, of course, is that home screen, seeing what your CPU is doing, seeing what your GPU is doing, seeing, you know, essentially what temps look like. It's just great to have this already here. And you can see it's in performance mode right now, not turbo. If I flip it over to turbo, we get a little more juice. It wasn't turbo during the gaming, for those of you that are wondering. So, again, really impressed with this machine so far. From a 4K video editing standpoint, totally adequate. I can see using this on a regular basis instead of a desktop. You heard right. And I have my 2080 Ti sitting over there. And I wouldn't miss it that much. This is not as fast, but it's good enough that I wouldn't miss it. From a RAM standpoint, I personally will want to upgrade the RAM here. So that's part of the reason that the soldered 8 gigs just pisses me off. But it doesn't ruin the machine. Most people, 16 is going to be fine. Most people won't care about the missing webcam. Keyboard is solid, even though you can't see it right now. I'll move it, bring it into frame. The keyboard is good. I mean, surprisingly good. Audio performance, also surprisingly good. I did not expect it to be as good as it is. And as I already mentioned earlier in the video, I thought this thing would get hot. It's been, I'm not going to say cool as a cucumber, but it's been really, really good. Like the LED notifications, not notifications, but the LEDs being visible when the laptop is both open and closed. That's another nice thing. The dedicated mute button for the microphone, always appreciated. Fingerprint scanner, appreciated. Of course, no Windows Hello using a webcam because there is none. But I think besides it being possibly just cutting a corner, Asus probably looked at it like if you're going to stream using a machine like this, you don't want some crappy webcam anyway. And I'm not trying to make excuses for them. That's just obvious because you absolutely can stream with this machine. And just to bring up the RGB lighting, those of you that were waiting for it, I mean, it's pretty good. Do I care about it? No. I'm just glad that we have the right contrast of lighting on a black keyboard so that when you need backlighting, it's usable. And of course, you can control the pattern, color, all of those things to your heart's content. But that pretty much wraps it up. Again, I called it a quick update. I fooled you. This is a full update. This thing is a beast. One thing I didn't talk about, battery life. So far, it's looking like 8 hours is a real thing. I don't want to commit to that, though, because I've literally spent 24 hours with it, and that includes me sleeping. So, any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button, and as usual, please feel free to subscribe, and please stay safe. Later.